The ancient warning war commander Thraxon stood in the command chamber of his flagship, the Severed Claw, watching the swirling vortex of hyperspace through the massive viewport. His forearms were crossed behind his chitinous back, and his compound eyes reflected the blue-white glow of the ship's displays. Around him, the bridge crew of the Kethmori invasion fleet worked in disciplined silence, preparing for what their commander expected to be another easy conquest. The Kethmori Empire had dominated this sector of the galaxy for over 3 centuries. Their military doctrine was simple and effective: overwhelming force, swift victory, complete subjugation. Thraxon himself had led successful campaigns against 47 different species, from the crystalline Veltar to the gaseous Nebulons. Each conquest had added to the Empire's strength and Thraxon's reputation. The humans would be number 48. Sub-Commander Vexkar approached from the tactical station, his movements precise despite his obvious nervousness. War Commander, our intelligence division has completed its final analysis of the target system. Kepler 442b appears to be a standard mining colony with approximately 80,000 inhabitants. Minimal military presence, outdated defense platforms. Thraxon's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Excellent. And their fleet strength? Negligible, sir. Perhaps 12 patrol vessels, all using primitive fusion drives and kinetic weapons. Our battlecruisers alone could handle their entire defensive force. The war commander studied the holographic display showing the human system. It looked peaceful, almost pastoral compared to the heavily fortified worlds of other species they had conquered. The humans had been expanding slowly into this region of space for less than a century, establishing small colonies focused on mining, agriculture, and research. Their technology was adequate, but unremarkable. Their military seemed more focused on exploration than warfare. They would learn the price of weakness soon enough. A soft chime interrupted Thraxon's thoughts. Communications Officer Ziffet turned toward him, her head crest flattening in confusion. War Commander, we are receiving an urgent transmission. The signal is unusual. Explain. It's coming from deep space, sir. No ship signatures, no energy readings. But the transmission power is enormous, enough to reach us across several light years without relay stations. Thraxon's eyes narrowed. Source? Unknown, sir. But they're requesting to speak with you personally. For a moment, the bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. In 30 years of military service, Thraxon had never encountered anything like this. Deep space transmissions of this magnitude were beyond the capability of any known species. Put it through, he ordered. The main viewer flickered to life, displaying a figure that made several bridge officers step backward in alarm. The being appeared ancient beyond measure, its form shifting and indistinct as if viewed through deep water. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of millennia. War Commander Thraxon of the Kethmori Empire, I am Elder Sinith of the Observers. I bring you a warning. Thraxon had heard whispers of the Observers throughout his career. They were said to be one of the oldest species in the galaxy, beings who watched and recorded but rarely interfered. Most military officers considered them myths or legends. State your business, Observer, Thraxon said, his voice carrying the authority of his rank. We know of your intention to attack the humans, Elder Sinith continued, its form seeming to ripple with each word. We strongly advise against this course of action. The humans are not what they appear to be. Several of Thraxon's officers exchanged glances. The bridge grew tense as the ancient being continued. Our records span millions of years, War Commander. We have observed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. We have seen species that conquered through strength, others through cunning, and some through technology. But in all our watching, we have encountered only one species that possesses what the humans call the pack bond. Explain yourself, Thraxon demanded. Most species fight for territory, resources, or dominance. When faced with overwhelming odds, they calculate cost versus benefit. They retreat when outnumbered, surrender when defeat seems certain, and accept losses when necessary. This is rational behavior. The Elder's form shifted, becoming more solid and somehow more threatening. Humans do not behave rationally when their pack is threatened. They do not calculate odds or accept necessary losses. When you attack one human, you attack them all. When you kill one human, you become the enemy of every human in the galaxy. They will hunt you across every star system, pursue you through every nebula, and follow you to the edges of known space. Sub-Commander Vexkar stepped forward boldly. With respect, observer, our intelligence indicates the humans are fragmented into multiple governments and corporations. They lack unity. Elder Zenith's laugh was like the sound of dying stars. You understand nothing. Political divisions are surface matters. Beneath them lies something far more dangerous. We have seen it before, War Commander. Long ago, another species made the same mistake you are about to make. The Zenthara Empire was far more powerful than your Kethmori forces. They attacked a human research station, killing 300 scientists. The Elder paused, letting the silence build tension. The Zenthara Empire no longer exists, not because they were defeated in battle, but because the humans made their extinction a personal mission. Every human ship became a hunter. Every human colony became an intelligence hub. Every human citizen became a soldier in a war that lasted 47 years. The Zenthara tried to surrender. The humans refused. They tried to flee to distant galaxies. The humans followed. In the end, not a single Zenthara survived. Thraxon felt a chill run through his exoskeleton, but his pride would not allow him to show weakness in front of his crew. Ancient tales and superstitions, observer. The humans are a young species with limited military experience. Our fleet consists of 200 ships, each one capable of destroying entire worlds. Numbers mean nothing, Elder Zenith replied. The humans do not fight like other species. They do not seek victory through superior firepower or tactical advantage. They fight through sheer, relentless determination. They turn their entire civilization into a weapon. The transmission began to fade, the observer's form becoming translucent. I have given you the warning, War Commander. What you do with it is your choice. But remember this. If you attack the humans, they will not let you flee. They will not accept your surrender. They will not stop until every last one of your kind has paid the price. The screen went dark, leaving the bridge in uncomfortable silence. Sub-Commander Vexkar was the first to speak. Sir, should we consider altering our course? Thraxon turned from the viewer, his expression hard as stone. No. We continue as planned. The observers have grown weak with age, seeing threats where none exist. The Kethmori Empire has conquered this galaxy through strength, not by cowering at the words of ancient cowards. He activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships prepare for system entry. We will show these humans the price of existing in Kethmori space. 3 days later, the Kethmori fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Before them lay a single blue-green world, orbited by mining platforms and defensive satellites. The human colony looked small and vulnerable, exactly as intelligence had predicted. Captain Elena Vasquez was reviewing geological surveys in her office when the alarms began screaming throughout New Esperanza colony. She dropped her coffee mug and ran to the command center, where her staff was already at battle stations. "Report!" she shouted over the wailing sirens. "Multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace," Lieutenant Torres called from the sensor station. 200 ships minimum. Unknown configuration, but definitely military. Elena's blood ran cold. New Esperanza was a mining colony with a population of 80,000 civilians. They had defensive platforms, but nothing that could handle a fleet of that size. "Send emergency transmissions to Earth Command and all nearby systems," she ordered. "Full priority. Tell them we're under attack by an unknown force." Dr. Marcus Chen, the colony's xenobiologist and first contact specialist, arrived at the command center as the alien fleet moved through the system. "Elena, we need to try diplomatic contact. Maybe they'll respond to peaceful communication." "Try it," Elena agreed, though she was already activating the colony's defensive systems. Marcus opened a channel to the approaching fleet. "Unknown vessels. This is Dr. Marcus Chen of New Esperanza Colony. We are a peaceful civilian settlement. Please state your intentions." The response came in heavily accented but clear English. Humans of Kepler 442b, you are now subjects of the Kethamori Empire. Surrender your defensive systems and prepare for occupation. Resistance will be met with annihilation. Elena and Marcus exchanged grim looks. So much for diplomacy, Elena muttered. The attack began without further warning. Beams of coherent energy lanced down from the alien ships, targeting the orbital defense platforms first. The platforms fired back with everything they had, their missile batteries launching salvo after salvo at the massive alien fleet. It was hopelessly outmatched, but something unexpected happened. Instead of panic, the colonists responded with organized determination. Mining equipment was converted into weapons. Civilian transport ships became evacuation vessels and communication relays. Even the children helped, carrying supplies and manning communication stations. The battle lasted 6 hours. The orbital platforms were destroyed, the mining ships overwhelmed, and the colony's defenses breached. But in those 6 hours, the humans had managed to inflict surprising damage on their attackers. 12 alien ships were destroyed, and dozens more were damaged. As Kethamori soldiers stormed through the colony, they encountered something they had never faced before. The humans didn't just fight as individuals or even as military units. They fought as a community, with every person supporting every other person. Families worked together to slow the invaders. Neighbors covered each other's retreat. Strangers died protecting children they had never met. War Commander Thraxon studied the battle reports with growing unease. Casualties? He asked his tactical officer. Higher than expected, sir. The humans used unconventional tactics. They coordinated their entire population like a military unit. As Kethamori forces secured the colony, they found something that chilled Thraxon to his core. The humans had managed to maintain communications until the very end. Every moment of the battle had been recorded and transmitted to other human worlds. The faces of the dead, the tactical data of the Kethamori ships, even personal messages from dying colonists, all of it had been broadcast across human space. Elena Vasquez was brought before Thraxon in the colony's captured command center. Her uniform was torn and bloody, but her eyes burned with undimmed defiance. Why did your people continue fighting when defeat was certain? Thraxon asked. Your losses were enormous. Surrender would have saved thousands of lives. Elena looked directly at the alien commander, her voice steady despite her injuries. Because you attacked our home. You hurt our people. And now every human in the galaxy knows exactly what you are and what you can do. Your military forces are days away, Thraxon said dismissively. By the time they arrive, we will have moved to our next target. Elena smiled, and there was something in that smile that made Thraxon's mandibles click nervously. You still don't understand, do you? This isn't about military forces. This is about family. You just declared war on 8 billion humans, and every single one of them is going to remember the names and faces of our dead. Through the command center's windows, Thraxon could see smoke rising from the conquered colony. The humans had been defeated, but something felt wrong. In all his previous conquests, there had been a moment when the enemy accepted their fate. He saw no such acceptance here. As night fell over New Esperanza, the first reports began reaching Thraxon of human ships appearing throughout Kethamori space. Not military fleets, but individual vessels conducting reconnaissance and surveillance operations. The humans were already moving, already responding, already turning their entire civilization toward a single purpose. The observer's warning echoed in Thraxon's mind. They will not let you flee. The Human Response Admiral Sarah Mitchell stood in the command center of the Terran Defense Coalition headquarters, surrounded by holographic displays showing star charts, fleet positions, and intelligence reports. The massive screens filled the room with blue light, but nothing could dispel the cold fury that had settled over every human present. The images from New Esperanza played on a loop on one screen. Burning buildings, civilian casualties, children's drawings recovered from destroyed schools, 80,000 human lives snuffed out by an alien empire that saw them as nothing more than obstacles to expansion. Status report, Admiral Mitchell commanded, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had spent 30 years in space. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison approached from the intelligence station. His face was grim as he handed her a data pad. "Ma'am, we've confirmed the identity of the attackers. They call themselves the Kethmori Empire. Our xenoarchaeology team found references to them in captured databases from previous alien conflicts. What do we know about them? Typical conquest-based civilization. They've been expanding through this sector for about 3 centuries, absorbing or destroying any species they encounter. Military doctrine emphasizes overwhelming force and quick victory. Admiral Mitchell studied the tactical analysis. And their current strength? Approximately 200 warships, spread across multiple fleets. Advanced technology, significantly ahead of our current military capabilities in most areas." For a moment, the command center fell silent. Then Admiral Mitchell turned to address the room full of officers, politicians, and civilian leaders who had gathered for this emergency session. "Ladies and gentlemen, we face a choice. We can respond to this attack through normal military channels, mobilizing our fleets and engaging in conventional warfare. Given the technological disparity, such an approach would likely result in defeat." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Or we can respond as humans." President Chen of the Earth Assembly leaned forward. "What do you mean, Admiral?" "The Kethmori expect us to fight like every other species they've conquered. Military versus military, government versus government, with clear rules of engagement and acceptable losses. They don't understand what they've actually done." Admiral Mitchell activated a holographic display showing the entire human sphere of influence. Hundreds of worlds, thousands of ships, millions of people connected by trade routes, communication networks, and family ties. They didn't attack a military target. They attacked a civilian colony. They killed families, children, researchers who had never held a weapon, and they did it while transmitting their actions across human space, making sure every one of our people saw exactly what happened. The room began to murmur as the implications became clear. Every human freighter captain who has family on frontier worlds is now personally invested in this war. Every mining ship crew that knew someone on New Esperanza is now a potential intelligence gatherer. Every civilian transport that can be retrofitted with sensors or weapons is now part of our response. Fleet. Dr. Sarah Kim, the Director of Colonial Affairs, stood up. "Admiral, are you suggesting we mobilize our entire civilian population for military operations?" "I'm not suggesting it, Dr. Kim. It's already happening." Lieutenant Commander Morrison activated another display, showing real-time reports from across human space. "In the last 72 hours, we've received over 10,000 volunteer applications from civilian ship crews wanting to join search and reconnaissance operations. Merchant captains are requesting military sensor packages, even passenger liner. Crews are asking how they can help." The scale of the response was unprecedented. Within a week of the New Esperanza massacre, nearly every human ship in space had been converted into some form of military asset. Cargo haulers became long-range reconnaissance platforms. Passenger liners became mobile command centers. Even luxury yachts were equipped with sensor arrays and communication relays. But the most significant change was in the humans themselves. Zara Okafor had been a structural engineer on the mining ship Prosperity's Dream when news of New Esperanza reached them. She had never served in the military, never fired a weapon in anger, never even considered herself particularly brave. But when her ship's captain announced they would be joining the hunt for Kethmori forces, she was the first to volunteer for the modifications team. "We're going to turn this mining ship into a ghost," she told her crew as they worked to install military-grade stealth systems. "The Kethmori want to hunt humans? Let's show them what it feels like to be prey." The Prosperity's Dream was just one of thousands of civilian vessels that underwent similar conversions. What emerged was not a traditional military fleet, but something far more dangerous. A civilization that had turned itself into a weapon. War Commander Thraxon first realized the scope of the human response when his intelligence officers reported strange sensor contacts throughout Kethmori space. Human ships were appearing in systems that should have been far beyond their operational range, conducting surveillance operations and disappearing before they could be intercepted. "How many ships?" he demanded. Sub-Commander Vexikar's compound eyes reflected his confusion. "We don't know, sir. The contacts appear to be civilian vessels, but they're using military-grade stealth technology. They don't engage our forces, they just watch." The psychological impact was immediate. Kethmori crews found themselves constantly looking over their shoulders, never knowing when a human ship might be lurking just beyond sensor range. What was worse, the humans seemed to know exactly where every Kethmori vessel was at all times. The first direct attack came 2 weeks after New Esperanza. A Kethmori supply convoy was intercepted near the Proxima Nebula by what appeared to be a single human cargo ship. But when the aliens moved to investigate, they discovered that the cargo ship was actually carrying enough firepower to level a small moon. The engagement lasted less than 10 minutes. The entire Kethmori convoy was destroyed, but not before. They managed to transmit a disturbing discovery. The human ship's crew consisted entirely of civilians, miners, engineers, and traders who had turned themselves into warriors overnight. General Vextar, Thraxon's chief strategist, approached his commander with growing concern. "War Commander, we're facing something unprecedented. The humans aren't fighting a conventional war. They've turned their entire species into a military force." Thraxon studied the tactical display showing reported human activity. Red dots appeared throughout Kethmori space, each one representing a confirmed human contact. There were thousands of them. "Recommendations?" he asked. "Immediate. Withdrawal to our core systems. Consolidate our forces and attempt to negotiate a ceasefire before this escalates further." For the first time in his military career, Thraxon seriously considered retreat. But the political implications were staggering. The Kethmori Empire's reputation was built on military invincibility. To withdraw in the face of a primitive species would invite challenges from dozens of other conquered worlds. "No," he decided. "We continue operations. Deploy additional ships to hunt down these human scouts. Show them that the Kethmori Empire does not flee from inferior opponents." It was exactly the wrong decision. The human response escalated immediately. Within days, Kethmori ships began disappearing throughout their territory, not destroyed in glorious battle, but simply vanishing without a trace. When search teams investigated, they found only empty space and occasionally chilling messages broadcast on emergency frequencies. "This is Captain Torres of the human vessel Remember New Esperanza. The Kethmori crew of the ship we just captured will be treated according to standard prisoner conventions. However, any Kethmori personnel who participated in the attack on our colony will be handed over to the families of their victims." The psychological warfare was devastating. Kethmori crews began deserting their ships at neutral ports, unwilling to face the relentless human hunters. Others mutinied against their officers, demanding to know why they were being pursued across the galaxy for following orders. But the most terrifying aspect of the human response was its personal nature. The humans weren't just fighting a war, they were conducting a vendetta. They had identified individual Kethmori officers who had participated in the New Esperanza attack and were systematically hunting them down. Thraxon received daily reports of his subordinates being captured or killed by human forces. Each time the humans made the same offer: surrender peacefully and face trial, or continue running and face the consequences. The breaking point came when Sub-Commander Vexkar was captured while attempting to reach a neutral system. The humans broadcast his interrogation across all frequencies, forcing every Kethmori in the galaxy to watch as their officer begged for mercy. "Please," Vexkar sobbed before the human tribunal. "I was following orders. I didn't want to hurt the colonists. I was just a soldier." The human judge, a woman who had lost her daughter on New Esperanza, looked at him with cold eyes. "So were the people you killed. The difference is, they were defending their homes. You were destroying them." The trial lasted 3 days and was broadcast continuously throughout Kethmori space. When it ended with Vexkar's conviction and execution, something broke in the Kethmori military hierarchy. Surrender requests began pouring in from across the Empire. Ships abandoned their missions and fled to neutral territory. Entire fleets disbanded rather than face the human hunters. Thraxon found himself commanding a shrinking force of increasingly demoralized troops. His mighty empire was crumbling, not through military defeat but through sheer terror of what the humans had become. The final confrontation came when Admiral Mitchell herself led a task force to Thraxon's hidden command base in the Kepler void. The human fleet that emerged from hyperspace was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Military vessels mixed with converted civilian ships, all flying the same flag. A simple image of New Esperanza colony with the words, "Never Forgotten," beneath it. War Commander Thraxon, Admiral Mitchell's voice echoed across all frequencies. "I am Admiral Sarah Mitchell of the Human Defense Coalition. You are surrounded and outnumbered. Surrender now, and you will be treated according to galactic law." Thraxon looked around his command bridge at the faces of his remaining officers. He saw fear, exhaustion, and the beginning of mutiny in their eyes. His great empire had been reduced to a handful of ships hiding in an empty system, hunted by a species he had dismissed as primitives. "Admiral," he replied, his voice carrying none of its former arrogance, "what guarantee do you offer for the safety of my crews?" "The same guarantee you offered the children of New Esperanza," Admiral Mitchell responded coldly. The silence that followed was broken by the sound of Kethmori officers activating their personal communicators, broadcasting their individual surrenders directly to the human fleet. Within an hour, Thraxon stood alone on his bridge, his entire command structure having abandoned him. As human boarding parties secured his ship, Thraxon thought about the observer's warning. Elder Sineth had been right. The humans were unlike any species in the galaxy. They didn't fight for territory or resources or even victory. They fought for something far more dangerous. They fought for each other. The last transmission from the Kethmori fleet was Thraxon's final message to what remained of his empire. The observer was right. We should have listened. The humans. They don't just wage war. They make it personal, and they never ever forgive. As human forces secured the last Kethmori positions, Admiral Mitchell stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking out at the stars that had witnessed the rise and fall of the Kethmori Empire. The war was over, but its lessons would echo throughout the galaxy for generations to come. Any species that considered attacking humanity in the future would remember what happened to the Kethmori. They would remember that humans don't just defend themselves, they defend each other. And when you attack one human, you become the enemy of them all. The warning had been clear, but they had attacked humanity anyway, and now no one had escaped.